all engaged couples and event planners. Join Leo Palace Resort Guam for our first ever bridal and event expo, The Road to I Do, happening March 21st from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Zafiro Ballroom. Explore venue options, financial planning, bridal glam, formal wear, wellness, entertainment services, and more, all in one place. The Road to I Do at Leo Palace Resort Guam. Design your day, define your forever. Special thanks to Power 98, Wave 105, and Route 99.
The talk you want to hear. Wave 105 FM.
Just in time for Lent, BK's Big Fish Sandwich and Impossible Whopper. 100% white Alaskan pollock, breaded with crispy panko, sweet tartar sauce, tangy pickles, on top of a warm toasted brioche bun. Also available is our Impossible Whopper. 100% Whopper, 0% beef. Make it a combo meal with french fries, onion rings, or halvesies, and a refreshing brewed sweet or unsweetened tea. We're ready to serve you this Lenten season. Now available at BK Hagatna, Tumon Bay, Micronesian Mall, and the airport.
G-U-A-M, island in the sun. From Jigo to Malesi, this land is all that we know.
Celebrate Mes Chamorro with us on Power 98 and the Guam Guide. We invite you to show your island pride in the Mes Chamorro Landmark Photo Challenge. From the Lottie Stone Park to Two Lovers Point, from the Inalaham Pools to the Malesu Bell Tower, we want to see you at your favorite Guam landmark. It's simple. Take a photo, upload your picture, and tag us on Instagram. The photo with the most likes wins. Special thanks to Vince Jewelers, Tony Romas, Local Jerk, and Fisheye Marine Park Guam. See the GuamGuide.com/Mes Chamorro contest for all your official rules and regulations. Viva Mes Chamorro!
I said this land is all that we know.
Kami ang inyong bangko, natapat sa serbisyo. Tunay na kaibigan at handa para sa inyo. Ang bangko ng kinabukasan, laging maaasahan. And Pacific, where others put branches, we place roots.
Tia Josasaw, Sinyaha.
Put ima usanya ifinut sa moro gigima. Hinasu ginini komisyon ifinut sa moro. Ekungo si Señora Rufina Mendiola. In entrevista a Señora Teresita Flores.
Apa na timan finut sa Morusia na ifamilia gigima pat gi komunidad.
Tutugo don tuafa I studente ko na may sapa ako. Tumagagat sa zona izan yun for English itauto ni Tito Moro lo gigima hafa na rason sa 20 ti mapresiso lo pago na go preciso siya kutugo sa man mamay sempo I familia po farmatura farmagonia ma esta malala no si keblinia po farmanapasi lo di badya sti pontungo for minut sa moro
Tia Josasaw, Sinyaha.
Calling all engaged couples and event planners. Join Leo Palace Resort Guam for our first ever bridal and event expo, The Road to I Do, happening March 21st from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Zafiro Ballroom. Explore venue options, financial planning, bridal glam, formal wear, wellness, entertainment services, and more, all in one place. The Road to I Do at Leo Palace Resort Guam. Design your day, define your forever. Special thanks to Power 98, Wave 105, and Route 99.
KGUM FM, Dedito. Powered by Glimpses Media. The views and opinions expressed on this program are those of the show hosts, guests, and callers, and do not necessarily reflect the views of the staff or management of Wave 105.1 FM, Glimpses Media, or our partners. We strive to provide quality, respectful, and engaging content, and we welcome you to participate in the conversation. Thank you for tuning in to Wave 105.1 FM. Enjoy the show.
Happy day, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to Wave 105.1 FM. This is a new week with our community talk program. We have challenged the status quo with Mr. Melvin Won, Borja. Thank you for tuning in, and this show is brought to you by Burger King. Just in time for Lent, BK's Big Fish Sandwich and Impossible Whopper. 100% Whopper, 0% beef. Now at your favorite Burger King. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll get into the show.
All right, Hafaday, and welcome back to Challenge the Status Quo. My name is Melvin Won. Borja. I am the Executive Director of the Commission on Decolonization. This show is brought to you by COD and our friends over at Glimpses, and also our sponsor, BK. Yay. That Impossible Whopper, that's my jam. I hope you all had a great weekend. It was definitely a rainy and overcast weekend, but I like me the overcast weather. I feel like it matches my personality. It's kind of gloomy, but it's still fun. You know what I mean? I'm a little gloomy, but I'm still a lot of fun. And I gotta say, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was gonna be. You know, we were over here expecting like major flooding, and my house is usually pretty cool because I'm a little higher up, but you know, there's always, everybody got areas in their house that floods, and thankfully I did not get flooded out. And bonus, we didn't get like destroyed by mosquitoes, which is always the downside after the rain, getting just eaten alive by mosquitoes. I blame the Spaniards for that one. Corral's speech said that we didn't have mosquitoes, right? Yeah, he said we didn't have those pests, which always made me wonder because there's a place in Santa Rita called Nyamu Falls, and Nyamu means mosquito. Hey, Biba Mes Tsumoru. This is our first show during Mes Tsumoru. I'm super excited. We didn't do the first Monday of the month because that was when we observed the holiday, Guam History and Tsumoru Heritage Day. Guam History and Tsumoru Heritage Day is the official holiday that we celebrate during Mes Tsumoru, and I believe it replaced...
It was Discovery Day.
Yeah, Discovery Day, which is an awesome thing. I got to just acknowledge the lawmakers and our leaders that were involved in that era of recognizing this holiday. And during that time, there was this debate. Well, the debate had been running already. The debate had been running about, why do we call it Discovery Day? And Tsumoros had been living here for thousands of years before Magellan, quote unquote, discovered the Marianas. And then of course there's the critique that Magellan didn't technically discover the Marianas. We discovered him lost at sea. And then there was there was even controversy, surprising, I thought it was surprising. There's controversy around the Discovery Day reenactment in Humatec, which I always thought was cool because if you've never been to Humatec for the festivities during Mes Tsumoru, I highly recommend it. If you miss it this year, go next year. But I always thought that the Humatec's telling of the story was cool because it was super blunt and painful, right? Like they reenact like the burning of the huts and like when the Spaniards attacked Tsumoros, after we saved them, which I think is is an important part of the history because Tsumoros have always had this reputation of being very warm and welcoming, and then suddenly it's like our hospitality backfires, which I think it's a smart thing for us to take some lessons from the past. I think we've been very hospitable. Anyhow, welcome to the show. Biba Mes Tsumoru. We're happy to be back here with you. I got Byron Uggan in the studio with me today. Byron is one of the employees at the Commission on Decolonization, and he, along with Harmony Polygonis and Hani San Nicholas, have been working diligently to prepare a lot of the research that we use to facilitate our community outreach. And a lot of that work has, rapidly evolved because of what's happening around us. And that's one of the things that we're going to be talking about today. So at the last show, we were kind of reflecting on the public hearing for Bill 242-38. Yes. Yeah, 242-38, which was a bill to amend the political status law that was passed in 1997. And so the law in 1997 created the Commission on Decolonization, and it also created a framework for a political status referendum or plebiscite. And it imposed a voter eligibility requirement. And so the bill was meant to remove that eligibility requirement or change it from native inhabitant to just any registered voter on Guam. And there was an overwhelming response. Byron was there, so was I. Harmony and Ani were there with us as well, along with a slew of people from our community, former leaders, business professionals, cultural advocates, activists. I mean, there were even high school kids in the room, which was really awesome. It was really great to see such a diverse audience that came to show their support for Chamorro self-determination and the rights of the indigenous people. And I think it's fair to say that the response was overwhelmingly opposed to Bill 242. To be fair, there were maybe about 3 or 4 on day one. There were about 3 or 4 testimonies that spoke in favor of the bill. But there were over 40 some odd testimonies, and the rest of them were in opposition of the bill. Let's start with that before we get into 258, which is what I really wanted to talk about today. But maybe you can share, because I've been kind of just doing my own thing and my own personal reflection on this. But you were in the room too, and of course, you were tracking this issue. You were part of the effort to organize the public information campaign and help raise awareness for people about what the bill is asking for, how it impacts us, and what is the history and the context of this issue. So what was your take on the hearing for 242-38? And, what were some of the things that stood out for you?
Okay, of course. Thanks, Mel. And half a day, everyone, to Radio Land. Hopefully everyone is doing okay after all this rain. It's important to note that, this probably won't be the last day for this hearing.
Right.
As you mentioned, only about 40-ish people.
Yeah, there were maybe like 100 some,
Yes.
a little bit over 100.
So not even half of the people who were
Right.
there had
And
the opportunity.
Yeah, and we didn't even know. The chairman of the committee, Senator Frank Lujan, Jesse Lujan. I apologize, Senator Jesse Lujan. Sorry, Senator Jesse Lujan, who chairs the committee. He reported on the floor that there were over 100 people who signed up to speak. They only got to about 40. And he mentioned that he just said that there were a lot of written testimonies that they didn't even get a chance to review at that day. I'm sure they have gotten through some of it. But he didn't specify how many written testimonies came in. I imagine there were a lot. He said there was a lot, but they didn't give us a number.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I think what I really appreciated was the response. There were a lot of people who were tapped into this issue and wanted to be involved in the conversation. So you mentioned that there will be another hearing that was talked about at the end of the hearing that lasted 7.5 hours.
Yeah, up until late afternoon.
Yeah, it was pretty intense. So we definitely will hear this issue again. Who knows what the turnout will look like? That was definitely one of the complaints, was that the hearing was scheduled at 9 a.m. on a weekday.
Yes.
A lot of people are working, are not able to attend. And so there were requests to hold a hearing that was going to be after working hours or at a different part of the day so that, people could make it and participate.
Okay. Yeah, so of course this was a team effort to organize the public information campaign, the drive for testimony, of course, to facilitate the turnout for the hearing date that morning. So yeah, we hope that in the future, if this gets heard again by the committee chaired by Senator Lujan, that it's made to be more accessible,
Right.
hopefully in the late afternoon.
Right.
Of course, if that'll be the case and we have the same level of turnout, you can only imagine that next hearing will go into the night,
Right.
depending
right.
on the turnout.
Yeah, I suspect it would. I mean, who knows what the sustained engagement looks like? Because I think that's also a challenge, right? Is that when you can only accommodate so many people, I imagine that people who, signed leave to show up that day but didn't get called to deliver their testimony, will they be motivated to show up another day? And you never know. But I think what's great is that there's a clear trend in the record right now. And I don't imagine that any subsequent hearing will be any different. I definitely feel like a lot of people are tracking this issue. A lot of people have been very supportive of Chamorro self-determination, and I think it's responsible also to acknowledge that there were a number of non-ethnically Chamorro people who testified in favor or testified opposing the bill and in favor of native inhabitant vote, which I think is very honorable. Obviously, this is a touchy subject for a lot of people, but most people, even a lot of non-Chamorro people, are they support the principles of self-determination, the principles of rights for indigenous people, and they understand the history and the way that colonization has impacted this indigenous community. So I definitely felt like that was very encouraging.
Yeah, it was. And for me, it just shows that a lot of people are conscious of the context of this issue, the sensitivity of it in terms of respecting the indigenous vote, because it's an act of restorative justice, something that has been denied the indigenous Chamorro people ever since we were first colonized over 500 years ago. And now the current are administering power in the United States for 127 odd years. Right.
I gotta ask you. I'm gonna kind of shift gears real quick here, Byron. I can't avoid the temptation to ask you. You're you look like a pretty young, handsome guy. How old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
Thanks for that compliment. I'm 24 right
24.
now. Yeah.
All right. The reason why I bring this up, Byron, is because obviously at 24, you're at an age where you're fairly new to this, relatively new to this conversation, right? And even if you're involved since birth, this has been going on for a lot longer than 24 years.
Yes.
And so even for me, I won't tell you how old I am. I'm a little bit older than Byron, but I'm a little bit enough to have been able to kind of take attendance in the room and see and noticeably pick out people that would have normally been there that are not, because they've left us, since between this time, right? And so there's been so many. We've been doing this for so long, and there are so many people who have been involved in this, who have since passed, and this has literally become a generational struggle. And so I got to ask you, what is it that brought you into this issue? What is it that I guess made you take interest in it? And what is it, what has the experience been like for you being this close to this work? I mean, you're literally like in the trench, in the front line on this fight.
Oh, thanks for that question. I'd just like to firstly say that it's been such a privilege to have the opportunity to work for the Commission for the past 2 years. And I guess to answer some parts of this question, I mean, understanding Guam's colonial situation was sort of a staggered awakening for me, I would say, because, growing up on Guam, being educated in the school system, the narrative has always been very touchy and loose in regards to telling the actual history of our island and our current status, relationship with the United States, and the sort of context of all of us on Guam being second-class citizens, part of this American empire that people don't like to talk about, because the United States still has not tempered its imperial ambitions, even with the current administration, which is a whole other issue itself. But I would say that understanding our status, understanding the position that we've been placed in for generations now was, again, a staggered awakening for me. And again, it's such a privilege to work particularly with this office, because I understand that the work that we do today is the work that has been done by so many prominent figures that are still with us and who, as you mentioned earlier, are not with us anymore. And it's important that as we carry on this work, we honor the legacy and understand that this issue is so grounded in history, so grounded in the families that have built up this island despite all the adversity and the challenges of colonialism, militarism, and of course the challenges we face as an island in the context of this geopolitical landscape, right? Which, is a very a lot of what's the word? It's a lot to put in and understand, because it is staggering, and this issue in particular is emotional for a lot of people, and the fight still continues on today. And despite everything, I believe that when we have challenged this particular bill, it has brought us to the importance of staying true to the principles
Right.
of what established our office back in 97
Right.
and what preceded us with the Commission on Self-Determination, and of course everything before after that is really reckoning with the fact that we need to change our status.
Right.
And everyone should be united against the status quo, because we feel and we experience so much of the disadvantages that has been placed because of our status, even though we may not perceive it on the daily. But I know that's a lot to go through, and it is a great question, because it's good for me to reflect on where I am right now, what has brought me to this point. And again, it is such a privilege and an honor to work for this office with you in particular, of course, with the team.
Well, I appreciate that. Brian.
Yeah, because it's quite amazing that despite all of that, we work diligently as a 4-person team
Right.
with a mandate that is supposed to educate the whole island.
Right.
So I just like to put it out there for maybe a personal interest, but if our senators really want to take a serious look at this issue and really support the need for Indigenous vote, that you provide the necessary funding, capability, and staffing to really ensure that all of our people are educated, understand that there needs to be a change in our status.
Well said, Byron. I got it. Man, somebody call this man's parents. Somebody call this man's parents and give them some cookies or something. My goodness, you were raised very well, Mr. Uggan, I must say. Honoring the legacies of those who came before us. Way to nail it on Mes Tamoru, my friend. I love it. And, I got to say, likewise, it has been an honor and a privilege. Really fantastic to have you be a member of this team. We got a great team. We're a small crew, but everybody on our team works really hard. I'm really proud to have this crew to work with. I got to say that we've always had some really good people come through the office. And we've never been a large team. This wasn't the same team that I started with in 2019. Other members of our team have moved on to other opportunities, and power to them. But I also got to commend you and Harmony and Hani for stepping up to take on this mantle and this work. It's definitely I'm glad that you had such a thorough response, and there's a lot to unpack in all of that. But I think that's great. I think the thing that really resonates with me is that you're a young person that is educated and that is aware of the situation, aware of the history, aware of even where you personally fit in this kind of bigger scheme of things, right? And you and of course the rest of our team is highly motivated. At this age, I think that it's a beautiful thing. And I encourage other people, young people, to get involved, especially young people. We've always taken a stance at the Commission on Decolonization that we would prioritize educating young people. And I got to share this. When I first started in 2019, I won't tell you who they are, but I have been criticized at a high enough level to say that we are wasting government funds and resources educating high school kids, because these kids aren't even old enough to vote yet. And this was back in 2019. We still haven't had a referendum. And so if we were investing time and resources and energy into educating a freshman in 2019, that young man or woman is more than old enough to vote today. Yep. And so, I've never wavered on that. I've always felt like that should be a priority. And I think that there's a lot of power in, sending you and our crew out, our 20-something-year-olds out, our young people out to go and educate other young people, because I think that's something that makes it feel attainable. Mm-hmm. I think that there's a lot of young people out there who are interested in this issue, who understand how important it is, but they just don't know, how do they get involved? Mm-hmm. And not everybody, and I think it's cool now because, the two young people who came to testify at the hearing on 242 were GW students who were also members of the Youth for Decolonization Club at George Washington. And I got to shout out to the Youth for Decol Club. I love those guys. They are so great. And shout out to their advisor, Miss Sophia Underwood, who teaches history right at GW. I think so. Whatever she teaches, give that woman a raise. Give that woman a raise. She is awesome. Because being a club advisor is like an extra thing. I know. I know this because I used to be a high school teacher, and the kids always used to ask me, "Sir, can you be our advisor for the club?" And I'm like, "Man, you're gonna take up all my lunchtime. That's like my only break, man. Come on." And so it is additional duty to take on advisor responsibilities. But bless her soul for doing this work and for creating this space for these young people in a high school setting to take on this task. And I gotta give props to the young people that make up this organization, and their commitment and their interest and their motivation to take something. Talking about decolonization in your high school hallway is not as cool as it's not even as cool as the drama club. Just to put it in perspective here, you know what I mean? Give you some context. I think more kids probably interested in the drama club or band than decolonization. And so, I think it's cool that these young people are, they have these spaces, that they're interested. I think it's really great to have folks like, young people in your age group that are that are not just interested, but doing the work.
Yep.
All you young people out there, I don't know if young people still listen to the radio, but maybe they're tuning in on our Instagram live or on the YouTube channel, the Wave YouTube channel, whatever the case. Young people, if you're out there, go get you an education for real. Reading, writing, speaking well is an asset. I am telling you. My crew is young, but these guys try to vulture these guys from me all the time. When they see what my team can do, they're just like, "Wow, your team wrote that? You wanna part ways with them? Like, no, hands off. You're gonna be off my Christmas list. Don't you touch my team." Really awesome. So thank you, Byron. I appreciate the work that you've been doing. I appreciate the perspective, and thanks, of course, for being here, Byron. When Byron first started, we had Byron really plugged in on research and outreach, and that was like our priority. And the radio show is always the bonus. Okay, first of all, I gotta give shout out to Glimpses, our friends at Glimpses who rolled the dice on us. They have this awesome community program where a lot of folks are able to come in and guest host like we do here. But I didn't think that they would offer us a spot, for real. I was actually kind of surprised when they called me and they're like, "Hey, you guys want to do a weekly show on decolonization?" I was like, "I'm gonna give you a chance to walk that back."
No, I think it's good because even me, it's so much information just in your guys' agency. That's like, oh my god, so it's great to break it down more.
I appreciate that, and it's
that's
awesome.
how I look at it, because this is a lot of information.
It is a ton of information,
Sure.
and I think it requires this kind of frequency.
Yes.
And that's one of the things that I really love about doing the show. And don't get me wrong, guys, like, I love doing this, but the show is a burden on the workday. Like, showing up once a week for 2 hours. Yeah, like, I have to schedule everything around these days. Right. My crew all knows, like, my staff over at the Commission on Decolonization. I also work at the Department of Tomoto Affairs. Everybody knows. Don't call Melvin on Monday between 10 and noon because he's busy and he's not going to answer your phone call. And so, it's definitely a challenge, but absolutely worth it.
Yes.
And we're super grateful to our friends at Glimpses for putting us on and giving us an opportunity to talk about this. But, when we made the commitment, I remember telling my crew that, guys, we're going to do this, and don't worry, I got it. Like, I'm not going to force you into being a radio personality. I also struggle being a radio. I don't really consider myself a radio personality. I'm just a guy that shows up for 2 hours a week. And I'm just going to try to be myself and be as straightforward and informative as possible. But I promise my team, like, I'm never going to put you on the spot and make you run the show. But I always leave the door open. The invitation is always open to my staff if they want to come in and share a conversation. And I got to commend you, Byron, for stepping up and doing this. You've done this multiple times. Haani and Harmony have also done this a lot. We've done this as a whole crew. and it's great. I appreciate all of you stepping up to do this. It's not easy, definitely not. But this is a great medium to help people better understand the issue. So thank you, Byron. I appreciate that.
And if I could just share that,
please do.
In doing this show for about 2 years now, which is kind of also crazy to say, we always do our best to either schedule guests and to prep you with information.
Oh
as
my
needed.
gosh! Yes, this is the brains behind the operation. Byron, Harmony, Hani. These guys are the ones who do all of the research, prep me out with all of the information. We plan a week ahead, try to figure out, okay, what is the topic that we want to focus on? And we've always been very deliberate about asserting that decolonization is important because it impacts every single aspect of your life on Guam. And so in order to better communicate that idea and that reality is that we show how it actually does affect you.
Yes.
And I think that I got to commend our team. You and Harmony and Hani have done a fantastic job at making sure that I got all of the information that I need and that I'm able to blah, blah, blah for 2 hours. and it works out. And I got to say, I really feel like we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't have been able to sustain this show for as long as we had and have the response that we've had if not for the team effort. So thank you to Byron and Harmony and Hani for always being diligent about this work. And Yuli, I got to tell you, it's really great to have you in the booth with us because, I got to say, for the listening audience, I met Yuli a few years ago. I believe Yuli is you're connected to somehow. My wife. I think you guys went to school together.
I think so. Yeah.
But
you're right.
I remember seeing Yuli at a bunch of just random community meetings.
Because I'm always supporting the museum.
Yeah, and
I
so
think that's the one thing you always see me at the museum.
Right.
I'm always there.
So I would see Yuli at things that are cultural centered or political centered, and always anything dealing with political status. Yes. You're a regular face, and so it's cool to kind of I didn't expect to see you just kind of showed up one day. It's I'm your engineer.
Yeah, they said, hey, can you take over this program? And I was like, yeah, I'll do it.
It's awesome, and I think it's great.
And I get to learn more.
We are all winning right now.
Right.
I love it. We don't always get to win, guys, so we got to enjoy these. We got to enjoy these when we got them. It's been a really fun adventure, and I think that I'm really proud of the effort. And I love how it when I first said I would do it, I kind of just took a deep breath and said, okay, I just got to lock in and commit that I'm going to take this thing on whatever it costs. I didn't anticipate at that time how much it would cost you and Harmony and Hani, right? And how it would impact our team. But I think it's been a fantastic effort, and I'm just really grateful to be here right now, to still be doing this. I'm grateful because I hear a lot of good feedback from our community. A lot of people will call me or message me or stop me and pay less when I'm in buying my hockey clothes. Like, hey, I heard you on the radio. Great job. Keep it up. And, not everybody likes our show. That's okay. That's okay, too. You know who you are. There's 2 of you out there. That's okay. You don't have to like us. But you still listen. You're still listening even if you hate us, which is hilarious. I love it. But yeah, it's awesome to continue this community conversation, and thank you again, Byron, for showing up today and agreeing to have this conversation with me on what's next from the Guam legislature. So let's just jump into it. We got about a little bit over 20 minutes left. We'll pick this up after the commercial break if we end up getting cut short. But when Senator Parkinson introduced Bill 242-38, he also introduced a second bill, Bill 258-38. And this bill is introduced as, quote, an act to add a new Section 2116 to Chapter 21, Title 1, Guam Code Annotated, relative to acquiring a 2026 general election legislative submission question on Guam's right to self-determination through a public vote and providing for universal registered voter eligibility. All right, so in short, I'm not gonna burden you with all of the legislative findings and intent, but I do want to read. What the act is proposing. All right, so in section 2116, 2026, it reads the 2026 general election legislative submission, self-determination through public vote, universal registered voter eligibility. And so what it's going to do is it's asking to have a submission required that the Guam Election Commission shall place on the official ballot for the general election to be held on Tuesday, November 3rd, 2026, a legislative submission question as provided in this section. The question will read, quote, shall the people of Guam vote in a plebiscite in 2028 to change our unincorporated territory status, yes or no? And then it also lists that voter eligibility the question will be open to all registered voters who are otherwise qualified to vote in the 2026 general election. The ballot title and summary. This question is a legislative submission, and so the Guam Election Commission shall prepare and publish the ballot title and other required materials in accordance with Chapter 16, Title 3, Guam Code Annotated. And the Election Commission shall ensure that the question is presented in English and shall provide any additional language presentation required by law. The Commission may consult with appropriate entities for accurate translations. It also includes certification of results. The Guam Election Commission shall canvass, tabulate, and certify the results in the same manner as other questions submitted by the general election. And in regard to effective vote, the result of this legislative submission shall serve as an official expression of the people of Guam on whether the government of Guam should pursue the right to self-determination through a public vote. This section does not by itself change Guam's political status or constitute a final political status act, but shall inform executive and legislative policy and subsequent actions consistent with applicable law. All right, so that's the gist of it, and we're going to do the breakdown now. So in short, if you weren't following all of that or some of it, basically what Bill 258-38, 258-38, I keep getting these mixed up, 242-258. So this bill is 258-38. Essentially what this bill is proposing is to put a question on this year's general election ballot. And the question, it'll work just like a referendum, like a plebiscite, in the sense that it is an open question to the entire electorate. This will work it'll function in principle, just like the question on legalizing marijuana, right, which was also put to public inquiry on a ballot. And so you'll have your regular ballot. It'll look just how it normally looks, with all your senatorial candidates, your mayoral candidates, your gubernatorial candidates. AG in Congress is running this year too, right? Those two will be on there. And then at the end of your ballot, or on a separate sheet, likely on a separate sheet, it'll have this question. And the question will say, shall the people of Guam vote in a plebiscite in 2028 to change our unincorporated territory status, yes or no? All right, so I think this is a really interesting bill. I'm using interesting because I don't know what other adjective to use right now. It's a really interesting bill. And I have to say, it feels very, very deliberate and strategic. So let's talk about this. What do you think this bill is proposing to do? I mean, we know what it's asking for. It wants a question on the vote. But what do you think this question, if this was to pass and we were to put this question on the ballot, what do you think it means for Guam's decolonization?
Yeah, it's a great question. Well, I think timeline-wise, we're currently in the month of March, right? This bill hasn't been scheduled for a public hearing.
Right.
And after that, of course, it needs to be put up into session.
Right.
And based off of how this current legislature is operating, they do it every other month for a session.
Mm-hmm.
So hypothetically, we're looking at a timeline up until November of about 8-ish months, right? But if this bill isn't heard this month, then if it keeps getting pushed, then when is it even going to be heard?
Right.
And when is it going to be voted on?
Right.
Additionally, what is interesting about this measure is that there is a lack of funding appropriation within the section, because having a separate question on election ballot
it costs
requires funding.
Right.
Not only,
and it's not cheap.
Yes, it isn't cheap. And not only for the election commission, but of course, I would hope that either Senator Parkinson or his colleagues are proactive in realizing they also need to support our office in putting together a campaign, even if this goes through or not.
Right.
Because we have to, if we're mandated to follow this, right, we should be supported enough to have a concerted campaign to have our public educated. But one glaring issue, I think we'll bring this up, is that this is being touted as an activation vote, this measure. But
which, to be fair, Parkinson said himself, like those are his words, that this is an activation vote.
Yes. But if you look at what this bill is doing, it's adding another subsection to our current law, which established our office. But if you look at particularly this section within our current law, like subsection 2110, which puts the question with just the options, right? Mark 1 for independence, free association, or statehood. And even if within this provision, it states that the plebiscite will be scheduled on the date of a general election.
Right.
So it is, I think in both of our estimations that this bill is not necessary because of the fact that when our law was established, it was mandated that the vote for each of the three options themselves to change our status has to be scheduled at a general election.
Right.
So there isn't a need for something like this.
Right.
But as you were saying earlier, this could be seen as being strategic on Senator Parkinson's part, because he is taking on this effort to change the eligibility requirement for voting, which he's also doing in this bill.
And I mean, I share that perspective. I think that it, clearly we know what the community feels at large about Samoa self-determination, about the voter eligibility piece. And I think that part, if you weren't sure about it, go watch the 7.5 hour hearing. Tune in for the next 2 or 3 hearings that they'll have to get everybody else. And then I think it's also smart to take a look at the historical record.
Yes.
This thing was deliberated in public, just like any other bill in 1997. It was heard on the floor in 1997, and it was passed by our legislature. And so, I agree. I think that it's unnecessary to ask us whether we want to vote or not. I think we clearly want to vote. That's why we had this law passed in 1997. So I definitely feel like it is a redundant question. We got a couple calls. We're going to try to get to them both. I think Dr. Underwood was on line 1. And then
No, sorry. That was earlier, Miss Patty.
Oh, okay. So my apologies.
We just didn't erase the message.
Oh, okay. That's the earlier show. Okay, so we got Frank on line 2. Hafaday, Frank, you're on the air.
All right, Hafaday.
Hafaday.
You know this thing with decolonization, man. The only way it's going to get solved, and a lot of these problems are going to get solved here in Guam, other than just straight out calling independence, because we don't need a vote. We can just say we're independent and see what their reaction is going to be,
Right.
The only way we can do this is how things get done in Washington is by lobbying. And that's how everything gets done in Congress, in Washington. It's by lobbyists, by lobbying Congress people, lawmakers, and that sort of thing. And I think we're approaching it the wrong way. And the way we have to approach this is by lobbying. Same thing with the hospital. We need people out there lobbying doctors and universities, students, for the shortage we have here with doctors and stuff. We need a lobby. The government need to put some money aside, the legislature, get some knowledgeable people, with good character, and get people out there and start lobbying for Guam.
I agree with you, Frank.
Just having a congressman there is not enough.
Yeah, and it doesn't help that our congressman is not plugged in on this issue. I mean, let's just be real about it.
It's not enough. You need a whole bunch of people out there lobbying.
I agree.
Not just the congressman. And that's the problem we have here. We keep doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result, and it's not going to happen.
Yeah, that's a definition of insanity.
We need to approach this differently, and we all know how things get done back there is by lobbying, and that's what makes the United States go round and round, and decisions are made is by lobbying. And that's all I gotta say. And I think we're approaching this issue way wrong, and it's about time we try something different, and for other issues too. And we need to get out there and lobby. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. Thank you for the call. I gotta tell you, Frank, I agree. I agree with that perspective. And I gotta just acknowledge that the Commission on Decolonization itself, me personally, get an overwhelming amount of criticism in regard to the lack of that effort. A lot of people say that when they criticize us, like, oh, if this is so important to you, then, why are you going to the UN? Why aren't you going to Congress? And the simple answer to that question is because the UN invites us and Congress does not. You know what I mean? We have an opportunity to engage with the UN. We know that the UN is not going to just swoop in like this international superpower and save the day. The UN's not a superhero. And we know that they're not even a body that's going to, hold the United States accountable, threaten the United States, you better comply or else. But that's not why we go to the UN. The reason why we go to the UN is, for one, they offer us an opportunity to hear from us, which I think is very important, especially knowing that if we don't speak for ourselves, the United States will speak for us, yes. Which is a very big problem. And it's not to say that Congress is not important, but Congress doesn't have a committee on decolonization or Chamorro self-determination. They don't engage with us and ask us. And so when I unfortunately am not at the level where I can just be like, hey, Congress, we need to talk about this. You need to bring me in. And I think rightfully so, it should be initiated by our congressional delegate. But I agree with Frank that it's not enough to just have one non-voting delegate and expect that that's going to deliver us to the promised land. I think that that's an unrealistic approach. And just to put it in perspective for our listening audience, it's not like we are naive to this. There was a point in time when the government of Guam was absolutely committed to engaging with Congress and lobbying in our best interests. And that was done during the Commonwealth Draft Act era for Guam, yes. Right? When Guam passed the Commonwealth Draft Act, the government invested about $1 million into the operational budget for the Commission on Self-Determination. And the majority of that money was spent on engaging with Congress, getting to Congress, and lobbying with the people who were going to vote on this thing and trying to build relationships. And that was an awesome time because that the history has showed that all branches of the government were engaged. The Guam Congress or the Guam legislature was engaging with their counterparts in the United States. The administration was plugged in. Our congressman was plugged in. And so, there was this kind of whole of Guam approach, which I think was really necessary. And even that, right, if you think about that era, that didn't result in a win. But that definitely resulted in us getting the issue discussed at a higher level than it's ever been discussed within the halls of Congress, which yes. I think was significant. And so I don't disagree at all with what Frank is saying, and I appreciate the point that he's making. But I also think that his perspective echoes your own. In principle, we cannot expect that these things are just going to resolve themselves, or that just because we put something into policy means that we're off to the races. And so I think that both of your perspectives are like, put your money where your mouth is. This is really important to you, then invest in it and let's do it for real. I think that there are a lot of capable people on the island, a lot of people who are interested and motivated and want to do this work. And I think that the work is needed. A lot of people, I think, would welcome more engagement on this issue. And I think a lot of people could really benefit from, learning more, getting access to more information, and making and holding their leaders accountable. And guess what, guys? It is election year.
Yes, it's about
it
that
is
time.
election year, man. I say this all the time. I feel like my crew says this all the time too, but I always say that if an elected official comes up to you and asks you for your vote, your question to them should be, what is your stance on Tomoto self-determination and decolonization? And I think that it's a fair question. I think it's fair to ask your elected leaders what they intend to do about decolonization and self-determination. And I think it's critical. And I think that that question is especially important for those who are eyeing the congressional delegate office.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think that's a prerequisite. Like, if you are not strong on decolonization and Guam's political status, you are not qualified to be our delegate. I think that just should not be negotiable at all. I've been hogging the mic, Byron. What do you think?
That's a good point. It is an election year, and across the board, all of these races are going to be interesting to look at in terms of the candidates and in terms of the seats that are opening up. I'd just like to say that, yes, it should be a prerequisite to all our congressional candidates because of the precedents that has been set by prior delegates like Ben Bloss, Robert Underwood, especially in that era of the Commonwealth Draft Act, because at that time, as you were saying, it was a sort of this whole of government approach, taking this thing on multiple fronts and seeing what would work. Unfortunately, of course, as you were saying earlier, it didn't pan out because of the fact that the federal government would not allow us to have two particular things: mutual consent and control of immigration, especially in the context of supporting the need for Chamorro self-determination beyond Commonwealth and into one more definitive political status option. I just also like to say, I do echo some of Frank's sentiment. It does require, concerted action, more strategic thinking, because of the fact that currently the commission, as you see us this morning, can only do so much, right? Of course, we're mandated to do education, but we are pending a concerted policy to allow us the opportunity to facilitate a plebiscite. And I'd just like to say that Senator Parkinson has taken up that mantle. And we could argue that he's doing it in not the best way, probably one of the worst ways.
Man, I think it's fair.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's a lot of validity in all of that. Yes. And I think that you're right. There has been a very high precedent set by previous congressional delegates. I mean, almost, not all of them, but almost all of our delegates in Guam history have advocated for greater political autonomy throughout their careers. And I mean, I think it's disappointing, that there's been so much happening in Guam and around our region, and so much attention and focus on Guam in particular. And, we're over here kind of scraping for pennies and just trying to get a cut of the money that's being spent in Guam. And it's not to downplay the value of those resources. I recognize that Guam is resource strapped, and that when whatever we can get from the federal government to help sustain our local economy and sustain our government, it's welcome. And I don't scoff at federal dollars and the support of our government, but I also believe that I think it's fair to say that there's been a lot of kind of complacency in feeling like, we won so many millions of dollars because we were able to win out this money from this partnership with the U.S. military or Congress or whatever, and then we just kind of walk away like, okay, that's big win, guys, great win. Let's go home and let's celebrate. And all it does is just perpetuate this cycle that we're in.
Yes.
And so I feel like if we're going to be serious about it, the only way is a full measure of self-government. And at this point, it's just kind of like, pick your poison, people. Decide what you think that, how does that look best? Does it look best through, an integrated state model? Does it look best through an independent model? Does it look best through a freely associated model? And how does Guam get the best bang for her buck in one of those statuses? And, I think that this is why it's so important for people to connect with our status task forces, because they are the ones who are really tuned in to their particular status preference. And I say talk to all of them. Talk to all of them and learn about them and see, what fits your values best. Anyhow, we are getting a flyover right now. That's why it sounds like everything is rumbling. And we are right up at the top of the hour. So we're going to take a real quick break, and we will be back for more political status conversation on Challenge the Status Quo. Stay right here on Wave 105.1 FM.
This is CBS News on the Hour, your home for original reporting.
I'm Hirbash. Iran has picked a successor to its supreme leader killed in the U.S. and Israel's initial attacks in the Iran war. Iranian state TV says it's his son. More from CBS's Imtiaz Tayeb.
Mujtaba Khamenei is an interesting character. He's 57 years old and has long been one of the most powerful, but I think we can comfortably say one of the least visible figures inside Iran's political system. He served in the Iran-Iraq War, which of course was a brutal conflict a few decades ago, which was very punishing for many Iranians. He was injured during that war. And in that time, he's developed very close relationships with the most powerful force inside Iran, and that is the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps.
Iran appears to be using a type of missile now that breaks up and is harder for Israel to stop. CBS's Matt Gutman explains.
And Iranian missiles piercing Israel's air defenses. Bomblets raining down from an Iranian missile across Tel Aviv. We caught up with the head of Israel's opposition party outside a damaged home.
How much of a concern is that now that they are seeming to change those tactics?
It's a huge concern, of course, for the life and well-being of the Israeli people.
U.S. Central Command today confirmed that a U.S. service member has died from injuries sustained during an attack on U.S. troops in Saudi Arabia March 1st. This is the 7th U.S. service member to die since the war began over a week ago. 6 were killed in a drone strike in Kuwait. The partial U.S. government shutdown is prompting the airport in New Orleans to tell passengers get to the airport 3 hours early because
we've got really, really long lines at the airport.
New Orleans Mayor Helena Moreno says TSA agents didn't get paid and apparently staged a sick out.
So you have a lot of the workforce that has called in sick, which is causing these huge lines.
Lines to get through security checkpoints wrapped around the airport, out the doors, and into parking garages.
Make sure that you get there as early as possible.
Dave Cohen for CBS News, New Orleans.
National Transportation Safety Board member Todd Inman, who is the board's initial spokesman at the deadly mid-air collision over Washington, D.C., has abruptly departed the agency. CBS's Chris Van Cleve.
Some relatives of those lost in the detail, particularly his concurring statement in the NTSB's final crash report that was skeptical of safety technology those families support being required in aircraft.
He leaves 2 years into a typically 5-year term. Inman says he was fired. This is CBS News.
What is going on?
What's going on here? How is this possible? Great storytelling starts here.
Oh, come on.
Why? It's time for 60 Minutes.
Jen, I didn't know you shopped here.
Hey, I'm hunting for something fresh for spring.
Oh, girl, skip them all. Jewelry Television has the best spring looks right now.
JTV, way ahead of you. Just hit up JTV.com yesterday, scored the cutest clover earrings, 2 tennis bracelets, and this gorgeous pearl ring.
Right now, new customers get $20 off any purchase of $99 or more at JTV.com.
Oh, and gold hoops and this turquoise bracelet.
Just a couple things, huh?
Maybe more than a couple.
Okay, class, let's begin.
Psst, love your boots. I just sold a pair like that on eBay.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it took like 2 seconds to list, and they sold almost immediately. I've been selling everything lately. Some chunky boots, a faux fur coat I never wore, and a vintage chair that was more of an expensive clothing rack.
You know, I actually bought these on eBay. Wait, are you Kitty Sell Stuff from Brooklyn?
Okay, quiet, please.
Find what you love, sell what you don't. eBay.
things people love.
Scandinavian bathing culture is growing.
The sounds of the Costa Rican rainforest envelop bathers braving a cold plunge at the new Lure Bathing Club in the NoHo neighborhood of Manhattan. Co-founder James O'Reilly.
It's visceral and it connects with sort of a very primal part of our being.
Intense heat paired with cold plunges can feel primal. Lure has an infrared sauna, hotter 190-degree room, and large pool cooled to around 48 degrees. Studies show longevity and health benefits, including a Finnish finding that more frequent sessions improve outcomes.
You're 40% less likely to die from all-cause mortality if you're going 4 times a week versus 2 times.
Wendy Gillette, CBS News, New York.
Need a pick-me-up after losing an hour of sleep due to daylight saving time? Krispy Kreme is offering a buy 1 dozen, get 1 dozen free deal today, original glazed. I'm Heather Bosch, CBS.
KGUM FM, Dedido, powered by Glimpses Media.
At Johns Hopkins, I'm Elizabeth Tracy.
Critical care medicine relies on pulse oximeters, which estimate oxygen levels in someone's blood for many decisions regarding their care. Studies during the pandemic suggested the devices said there was more oxygen in the blood of someone with darker skin than there was. But now an FDA-funded study suggests the opposite. Johns Hopkins critical care expert Rohan Mathur comments.
This is surprising, but that's what science is all about. We know that there is an error range with these things. These patients, although they were all in the ICU, were not people who were in emergent situations where their oxygen levels were dropping suddenly. Whereas a lot of those earlier studies looked at patients who had suddenly become hypoxic. In other words, their oxygen levels had dropped below a certain amount. So it's possible that maybe there is a discrepancy that happens more when people are actively becoming hypoxic. Their oxygen levels are dropping rapidly. That might take another study to figure out.
At Johns Hopkins, I'm Elizabeth Tracy.
I'm Larry Magid with the Connect Safely report. There's a lot of news about the war with Iran, but some of what you might see online is fake. It's not uncommon during major events for people, or in some cases even organizations or governments, to post inaccurate news. And now with AI, it's a lot easier to include photographs and videos. For example, there was one highly circulated video supposedly showing an Iranian jet attacking a U.S. ship, but it turned out to be a clip from a video game. An AI-generated video depicted major damage in Tel Aviv that never really happened. If you question anything you see online, look for confirmation elsewhere. Check the source, be suspicious of overly dramatic video, and definitely pause before you're tempted to share what you see. With the Connect Safely report, I'm Larry Magid for CBS News.
At Johns Hopkins, I'm Elizabeth Tracy.
Do the devices known as pulse oximeters, which measure the amount of oxygen in someone's blood, underestimate or overestimate this value in people with darker skin? Controversy swirls with release of data from an FDA-funded study that runs counter to previous studies. Rohan Mathur, a critical care medicine expert at Johns Hopkins, frames the issue.
As a critical care doctor taking care of sick people in the ICU, we have to measure things that are crucial to making sure that someone's care is appropriate. One of our critical devices is something called a pulse oximeter. It's what measures how much oxygenation we think you have in your blood. Usually sits on your finger, and we've been using this for decades. Just over the last few years especially, there's been some controversy with these devices where we started to realize that these pulse oximeters might not be as accurate as we think they are, especially in people with darker skin.
Mathur says it's clear additional research is needed. At Johns Hopkins, I'm Elizabeth Tracy.
Put ima usanya ifinut samoro gigima. Hinasu ginini komisyon ifinut samoro. Ekungok si Signora Rufina Mendiola. In entrevista a Signora Teresita Flores.
Apa natiman fifinut sa Morusia na ifamilia gigima pat gi komunidad.
Tutulo don't tuafa studente ko na may sapato. Tumagagat zo na izan yun for English itauto ni Tito Moro lo gigima. Hafa na rason Sabanti ti mapreciso. Lo poco na go preciso siya. Kutungo. Sa man mamamay sin poco. I familia po farmatura farmagonia. Ma esta malalango si keblinia po farmanaposi. Lo di bodges ti pontungo fuminot sa moro.
Tia Trasasao, Senior High.
Calling all engaged couples and event planners. Join Leo Palace Resort Guam for our first ever bridal and event expo, The Road to I Do. Happening March 21st from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Zafiro Ballroom. Explore venue options, financial planning, bridal glam, formal wear, wellness, entertainment services, and more, all in one place. The Road to I Do at Leo Palace Resort Guam. Design your day, define your forever. Special thanks to Power 98, Wave 105, and Route 99.
News, views, and everything Guam cares about. Wave 105.
Calling all engaged couples and event planners. Join Leo Palace Resort Guam for our first ever bridal and event expo, The Road to I Do. Happening March 21st from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Zafiro Ballroom. Explore venue options, financial planning, bridal glam, formal wear, wellness, entertainment services, and more, all in one place. The Road to I Do at Leo Palace Resort Guam. Design your day, define your forever. Special thanks to Power 98, Wave 105, and Route 99.
G-U-A-M, island in the sun. From Jigo to Malessu, this land is all that we know.
Celebrate Mes Chamorro with us on Power 98 and the Guam Guide. We invite you to show your island pride in the Mes Chamorro Landmark Photo Challenge. From the Laddie Stone Park to Two Lovers Point, from the Inner Laham Pools to the Malessu Bell Tower, we want to see you at your favorite Guam landmark. It's simple. Take a photo, upload your picture, and tag us on Instagram. The photo with the most likes wins. Special thanks to Vince Jewelers, Tony Roma's Local Jerk, and Fisheye Marine Park Guam. See the GuamGuide.com/Mes Chamorro contest for all your official rules and regulations. Viva Mes Chamorro!
I said this land is all that we know. Tia Trasasao, Senior High.
Ekongo puritinigi. Hinasu ginini komisyon ifinut sa moro. Ekongo si Señora Teresita C. Flores. In entrevista a Señora Rufina Mendiola.
Besafa Estonia ifinut sa moro ki komunidad.
Sa paghapan na rason, natinahong material para umaaatan ni tao-tao siya ni publiko na estigit finut sa moro matutugi tayo wili na kaseta pa. Man manggi gaseta gwihuji komunidad ni matugi gifinut sa moro. Ano mano pa optro lugar siya, so mga lumagi sumnya hotel maaagan, undi i gaseta siya, tamas i komunidad uspian penyo. So matsonik mas, ifinanagi so masuporte finut sa moro.
Tia Trasasao, Senior High.
Where the coffee is strong, the opinions are stronger, and the vibe is always local. Wave 105, Glimpses Media.
The views and opinions expressed on this program are those of the show hosts, guests, and callers, and do not necessarily reflect the views of the staff or management of Wave 105.1 FM, Glimpses Media, or our partners. We strive to provide quality, respectful, and engaging content, and we welcome you to participate in the conversation. Thank you for tuning in to Wave 105.1 FM. Enjoy the show.
All right, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to Wave 105.1 FM. We have one more hour of our community talk program, Challenge the Status Quo, with Mr. Melvin Won, Borja. Don't forget, this show is brought to you by Burger King. And head down over to Burger King just in time for Lent for BK's Big Fish Sandwich and Impossible Whopper. 100% Whopper, 0% beef, now at your favorite Burger King. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll get into the show.
All right, and we're back. Shout out to our sponsor, BK. I totally forgot that they're killing it right now because it's Lenten season. I was just telling my wife that I like me a fish fillet like most Samoros. But I gotta say the Wendy's sandwich, fish sandwich, is pretty good too. And I was just thinking to myself, like, they gotta be one of the few Wendy's in the world that does this, because it's like you gotta survive during Lent. It's like real, you know, the business impact if all you serve is beef. And during Lent, like, you know, nobody's patroning your business. There's not a lot of people who don't observe Lent. I'm not even Catholic, and I observe Lent because my family's Catholic. So, you know, I gotta like be respectful and not be a meanie about it and like tempting them with a juicy burger while they're trying to like fast and stuff. But man, BK with the Impossible Whopper, that's already my jam. And now it's Lenten season. I'm like, I got no problems. You want a fish sandwich over at BK? I'll have me the Impossible Whopper with cheese. Yes, please. No onions. Super fun. I hope everybody's staying dry out there. The weather kind of followed us into the week. But it's gloomy, and I like it. I like it when it's gloomy because it's cool. And I don't mind, you know, I say like bad inclement weather with good gear is no problemo. I can handle that. If you have good gear, you're good. Anyhow, we're coming right in. We're coming in hot, guys. We have a caller that's been on the line since the break, and I don't want to keep him waiting too much longer. If anybody out there is interested in getting involved in the discussion, the number is 671-922-1051 or 1052. And you can even WhatsApp us your questions on the 1051 number. And we're also streaming live on the Guam COD Instagram, as well as the Wave YouTube channel. And if you comment on one of those, we will get to it. We actually just Byron over here took down all the comments that we didn't get to from the IG live before the break. So we'll be getting to that just shortly. But before that, let's get to our caller on line one. Hafaday Jess, you're on the air with us.
Hey, buenas, Marcelo.
Buenas.
Thank you for having me, man.
Oh, thanks for your call.
Yeah, man. You know, it's funny how you just mentioned the inclement weather. I love this weather too, man. I mean, they say, you know, you can get warm, but you can't get cold, right?
Yeah.
Yes, and also too, it relates to my call. I think I might just be calling you to complain about my broken aircon, man.
No, not broken aircon.
No, it's the worst, man, and it's the worst for a reason, dude. And hopefully, I can tie this together the right way. But my kid just had, like, you know, he did an interview with Dr. Ann Terrazatori, and in that interview, she reminded me, like, about some aspects of, you know, Chamorro history that I may have forgotten. You know, it concerns, like, the intelligence, right, and the resourcefulness of our people.
Right.
And a lot of those Spanish accounts, you know, they talk about the brute strength and, like, how big they were and,
right,
you know, things like that. But, you know, like the other accounts that those Spanish had, right, like in regards to the sailing, of course, you know, we had the best sailors, right? We had the fastest
right.
boats. And in regards to the native houses, like, these are the best native houses we've seen, you know, among native people. And, you know, these guys are just coming straight from Mexico, right?
Right.
They've seen the Aztecs, they've seen the Mayans, the Incans, and it was till they got to Guam where they said, these natives have the best houses.
Right.
And so, yeah, we tend to forget, like, you know, like, our people, you know, of the past weren't strong. You know, they lived here for a millennia, and they figured out how it's the best to live on this island. So they were intelligent, right?
Right.
And, yeah, it gets me a little frustrated, man, thinking about how I'm sitting in the seat, in the aircon, and thinking about architecture, right, and what made our people find the best way to live here and be with this broken aircon and this box-shaped house, man. It's so hot.
Right.
And it's like, you know, I'm not saying, like, maybe we shouldn't, like, live without aircon, but I'm saying we should have at least left ourselves the option, right? I wouldn't have built my house like this if I felt like I had options, right, to live without aircon. I built it so the wind can get through.
Right.
And so yeah, man, I'm complaining about my broken aircon, and then I'm complaining about the legend of Chief Godout. People focus on his Herculesian, you know, like, style, this big, strong man, but they forget his intelligence and his diplomatic efforts, right? Like, he avoided a can war with Matapan, with Malaguanya, by basically bullshitting him. And oh, sorry, I apologize, but Yeah, no, I just wanted to say that, man. Like, we
I
leave ourselves like without the option of, because we're so clouded by this colonial way of
Right.
how to live and how life is supposed to be. But we already knew that.
Right.
How it's supposed to be here.
Well, I think that's a great point, Jess, and I want to thank you for your call. And I think it's very fitting while we're celebrating Mes Tsamoru. You know, I think that that's one of the things that gets lost sometimes when we celebrate Mes Tsamoru. You know, I know there's people out there that think that Mes Tsamoru is just a time for us to like eat coconut candy and like maybe we'll learn how to weave us a ketupat or something like that. But you know, to me, Mes Tsamoru is about celebrating all things Tsamoru. And that includes the you know, the sustained survival of our people. I mean, the way I look at it is no small miracle that there are even Tsamorus here today. You know, the fact that there's 4 Tsamorus right now having a conversation, me, you, Byron, and Yuli. The fact that there's 4 of us having an intelligent conversation on radio waves, I think is a testament to, you know, to our ability to survive and withstand all of this, you know, all of these external forces that have obviously made things very difficult for us. And you know, I appreciate that you kind of connected both the kind of modern day challenges, but also made some really great points about, you know, our intelligence and how that has allowed us to continue to survive and thrive. And I think that's you know, that gets lost on a lot of people sometimes. And you know, and I think it's fair to be frustrated when it feels like you're kind of set up to fail, you know? I mean, even in small things like you mentioned, like, you know, if you had known, if you thought about this before, maybe you wouldn't have built this house that looks like a box that is dependent on aircon. But at the same time, like, we have to recognize that, like, we're in a reality in Guam where, like, you can't even get typhoon insurance on a home if you don't have a concrete roof. You know, which is crazy if you think about it, right? Like, concrete and our heat are not conducive to each other. They're not.
For sure.
You know what I mean? It's like
sure.
I mean, man, I'm a product of Southern High School. You know, I remember when, and I'm a product of Southern High School from when it was built. And I went back there as a teacher, and I remember when the AC went down at Southern High School, it changed everything. And like, you know, the kids were starting school at like 6 a.m, 5:30, something like that, like super early, so that we could release them by 12, because it just got too hot to do anything in that building. And I remember people were complaining like, "Oh, these kids are so spoiled. You know, we didn't have aircon back in my day, boy. Man, you're getting out at 12." And I'm over here like, Sina, I appreciate. Yeah, I agree. Some of these kids is soft, but have you ever been in Southern High School at 11 o'clock when it's like full sun, not overcast and nice like this? It is unbearable. And even the way they built that school, you can't even open up the windows to create, you know, proper ventilation. And so, you know, in a lot of ways, yeah, we have kind of built ourselves into these situations, but it's not like this is entirely our choosing, you know? And I think it's really interesting because all over the world, people are now more focused on sustainability and kind of like living in harmony with the environment. And what it's caused people to do is it's forced them to tap into indigenous knowledge. And everywhere among the sustainability conversation worldwide, you see different peoples from different places trying to bring back indigenous practices because they are the most appropriate practices that lend to sustainability in a given place. And like, you know, I remember I had this friend. I ended up making him my pari. We went out to Molokai, which is one of the Hawaiian islands. And ironically, Molokai is like almost the same size as Guam. It's even almost shaped like Guam. It's just kind of like turned on its side. And like the shape of it's kind of got that boot shape. But there's only like maybe 5,000 or 6,000 people that live in Molokai because a lot of it is impassable. Like it's super dense forest, right? Anyhow, this guy used to run this sustainable fish farm, like a traditional Hawaiian fish pond. And he always used to say, he goes, "Brah, aloha aina is the way." He's like, who better to teach you how to live in harmony with the environment in these islands but Native Hawaiians? because Native Hawaiians been doing this for hundreds of years, and it just and it just made me think like, man, there's so much truth in that, and if that's true, then why does that not apply? Why do we not think that that same thing should apply in Guam? Because Chamorros have been here for thousands of years, you know, thousands, and it's crazy to think that as isolated, geographically isolated as Guam and Micronesia is, that we could not only sustain life here but thrive for thousands of years before Western contact. And it's just wild, you know, to think. And when, right. And so I appreciate the call, Jess, and I appreciate the perspective. And man, I'm praying for you that your aircon gets fixed, because you're not going to build a new house. It's cheaper to fix the aircon than build a new house.
Yeah, hey, and between us, man, I'd skip school over a hot bathroom, dude.
Yeah, hey, you know, you're only human, man. You're only human. That's why the kids at Southern get so wild, man. Because it's crazy, you know what I mean? Like, it's sad, like, when you think about, for a lot of, you know, kids that live in these tough situations, for a lot of them, school is like the one consistent place. It's the one consistent place where there's people there that, you know, care about your future. There's a hot meal. There's a roof over your head. You know what I mean? Like, it's safe. And for some kids, like, home is not safe. You know what I mean? It's just the truth of it.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it's tough, man, when we take away a kid's one safe place. And anything, it's such a fragile environment. Anything can do that, you know, whether it's, you know, down facilities, or, you know, the food program is being threatened, or, you know, there's just not enough teachers or supervision, so we can't have class. I mean, there's so many things that can just kind of rock the stability of a school environment. And I feel like, you know, this is all a part of our decolonization journey, you know, because decolonization is not just going to change our status and open up international trade. Decolonization is also going to give us an opportunity to take a hard look at all of our systems, including our school system, and make a decision about what's really going to work for us and what's not, you know? I mean, if you think about like Title I, the free lunch program. Title I is for kids who, you know, fall below a certain economic level, right? Their families fall in a certain tax bracket, and it means that they qualify for the meal program at schools, right? A government funded meal program. And it's crazy that when the feds did their assessment of Guam, every kid, that's what they determined, is that every kid on Guam should qualify for a free meal at school, because we all qualify for Title I. It's wild when you think about it that way, you know. But then you also think about kind of the weird irony of all of this is that we're importing all of that food. We're importing all of that food to feed these kids when there's a viable food system here. We're just not, you know, we're not doing it the way that we used to. And it's no accident, right? It's not like the people just decided that they don't want to farm no more. And it's no coincidence that the most fertile farmland in Guam is, guess where? Anderson Air Force Base and Sumai. Right, you know, where Navy and Anderson is at. I mean, those were traditionally farming lands. And so, you know, it's no accident that Guam was 90% self-sufficient in regard to food prior to World War II. And today, after World War II, we're 90% dependent on imported food. It's crazy.
It's crazy, bro. And we appreciate you out there, man. We love you, bro.
Thank you, my brother. I appreciate you calling in. Thanks for listening. Best of luck to you and your family. Hey, call me later, man. I know aircon guy. He's honest and good.
Hey, Esther, my man.
Esther, brother. Take care, man. Stay dry. Adios. We got some more comments coming in on the Instagram. We're going to get to those in a bit, but I want to go back. I know there were some comments that were left right before the break, and I don't want to leave these guys hanging. Thanks to all of you who are tuned in on the Guam COD IG Live, and of course on the Wave YouTube channel. And those of you out there in Radio Land, if you're sitting in your car in traffic, it's raining, we're here for you, man. We're here for you. And you can call us if you want to just get down. You're bored at the red light, you can call us 922-1051 or 1052. All right, Byron, what you got for the IG comments?
I think I got most of it from before the break. I just took a picture of it on my phone from our iPad. But I believe it's the same commenter who's been reading some comments now, as we were talking. Okay. I believe the username is Tumai Guahini. So I think she was saying, my vote goes to those I see here at our protests consistently who stay long after their photo op to actually support people on the streets. Seen a few familiar faces, but they leave right after the photos are taken. They do not prioritize our message stressing political autonomy and liberation from the limitations of the status quo.
Good for you.
And then I think when we're talking about Congress and our, scraping by for pennies, federal bribery and political complacency breaks my heart.
Yeah, mine too, man. Mine too. I think I'm more offended by complacency than corruption. Because at least people who are corrupt are thinking. You know what I mean? You're at least having some critical thinking moments where you're like, how am I going to get away with this? How am I going to not go to jail? But if you're complacent, that's just lazy, man. That's just lazy. That's like, oh, I don't want to get involved. I'm going to just leave that to the referendum. That's not for me to decide. Oh, barf. You're a leader. You get paid to take a side, man. You get paid to take a stand. We picked you so that you could be bold. And if you're going to be up there and be like, oh, well, I don't really know. I'm going to wait and see. I'm like, come on, man. That is not the job. That's not the job at all. I agree with that 100%. Do we have another one up on there? Are you seeing this on your thing?
Let me try to see if I can.
Do you have it on your computer?
Yes, okay. There's a bunch. But yeah, the frame of the conversation for our call with Jesse, I think this is a Southern alumnus.
Yeah.
We were in the swamps. It's just hot. I remember sharing classrooms because another had a leaky ceiling and broken aircon windows.
Oh, man. I know the struggle.
I think when we're just talking about our dependence on imports, it's no accident, Chelu, that's happened. Right. Another comment saying the same thing from another user, no accident whatsoever. And then the same comment from earlier, or same commenter saying, give us the poison, sell us the antidote, disguised as advancement or liberation.
Right on. We got a pretty fire audience right now, obviously. Thanks to all of you that are keeping it locked on this Instagram live feed. I appreciate you listening and tuning in. Oh, we got another call. All right, let's get to Joe Malik on line 1. Hafaday, Joe, you're on the air with us.
Biba tomorrow.
Biba.
Sa anon to language malingoy lingwaita malingoy hitana crossing tauton tomorrow na.
I agree.
No, again, who survived in World War II. China tanto man libre gini tanota. Sa bula sa 8,000 man halun da no nisita ta siya no no sumauna ni lingwaita sa no lingwaita manapan sa momure na. Ia pa patakano ge anterigera na anay dui gera gi tapanis na tempo guaha singa sa patakano guaha badito gua dog todo crossing al taun singa takano lo sige punto ku gini malago tago ni baita ganai istana crossing tauto sesta timege ifa magono gaji doko ge gran tal na musikula gaji lurau Yung sa molo da fashion natin na lang si Palaksi. Dan sita no si Jesse ipamagonta si Masamko. Dan segundo da iagaw no siya o pino sa Tamuruzia dumiglir Dan sito to abine gilante Kristi ana manapan maktumagi di Pisco. Da manda toli in English dalam sekolah. Dan agi pemuda muro di school campus mana pauna ni liga pasinoma paomo masaula ko na di ruler.
Enggak.
No castigo que na castigan ni reba na pagomay introduce in English. As you know, fail na English subject. Di mana sa graduate ko sa Tisino, ang nanawad mo biskela, gigima, makagigima, sinanawad ang tatawad pag maniluho no, wala po na tomorrow.
Zeus Masi, senyor.
Bisita lang no, Melvin, utugla man na sa masago, ay di bumusin, mamisin, marolo.
Zeus Masi, senyor. I agree with you. I mean, and for our listeners out there, you know, Senor Joe Malik was making the point that that our language is important to us, that our language has survived through a lot of different challenges. And I think the one that really kind of stands out to me is what our people experienced after the war in the language policies imposed by the U.S. Navy. And, you know, that was, I think, the particularly damaging, because not just because of how it removed Chamorro from public settings, and especially spaces of power, right? I mean, they weren't trying to stop Chamorros from speaking Chamorro in their home, but they were definitely forbidding Chamorro to be spoken in places of power, right? Where other people would gather. And I think that the most damaging part of all of that was the impact that it had on those people's children, and how it impacted the way that they view the language, right? And I got to say that this is, it's been nice today, because we've heard, like every so often when we do a commercial break, we get to hear the Mes Chamorro ads from Comisión y Finot Chamorro. It's so nice to hear Sina Loling Sauter, Sina Terry, and Sina Rufina on the airwaves speaking Chamorro. And, you know, we've come a long way. We've come a long way in the sense that now, you know, we've developed policies, local policies that make Chamorro language compulsory, right? When you're in elementary school, in a public school on Guam, you will learn Chamorro in 1st through 5th grade. You will learn it 6th through 8th grade. And then you have to have at least one credit of Chamorro language to graduate from a public high school. I mean, and I'm not saying that this is enough. Obviously, this is not enough.
Gua talo no Chamorro yuode. Ito mo pagulo tempoku ganay miskilo na yuode.
Yeah.
Yeah, on the DI bill.
Right.
No.
Good for you.
Sino sangan pin Chamorro makat o tugi pin Chamorro na papagi leblu.
Right. And it's nice too now to see that there are even more and more examples of Chamorro writers, right? People who are putting together not just educational resources, but even entertainment. You know, it's cool to see young people celebrating Chamorro when it wasn't that long ago when you were made to be embarrassed to be Chamorro or to speak Chamorro, somehow negative, or you were uneducated if you sounded Chamorro. And so I you know, esta señor Sejus Maasi, Gosa idea. That was Joe Malik on the air. I appreciate your call, Senor. That was it's a great point, and I think that it's important. There's been a lot of evolution in the way that Chamorro people have been reclaiming, our language and trying to perpetuate our language and teach our kids. Byron and I were just having a conversation right before the show started. Byron's younger siblings, or his two younger sisters, he's got three of them, three younger siblings, and his two sisters were previously going to Harvest.
Yes.
Yeah, so they were going to Harvest, and his family ended up deciding that all of the kids were going to go to a different school. So the older one went to BTAX, right? But the two younger ones ended up enrolling in Fanidzaken, which is the Chamorro language immersion program that's housed at PC Lujan. And so there are two now. There are two Chamorro language immersion programs. One is a part of DOE, that's the Fanidzaken at PC Lujan. and the other is a charter school that shares a campus with BTAX, and that's the Chief Hurrao Charter School. And both programs have been extremely successful. I gotta say, my daughter has been going to. She did both. She did Fanny Zaken at PC. She currently goes to Hurrao. And so it's an awesome thing. It's great. Like personally, it's such a beautiful thing to just go on campus. Go on campus and you hear these little ones speaking Chamorro, playing in the playground and like teasing each other. And so, oh my gosh, my heart is so happy. And so Byron had mentioned before we started the show that your sisters are really enjoying and that they're learning at a really high pace.
Yes.
So how does your family like it? And what do you think was the motivating force to kind of take this leap of faith? Because I mean, it is a big decision to make.
Yeah, sure. I guess I'm speaking on behalf of my family now, so hopefully I tell this story right, at least from my mom. So I think the interesting thing is that, we heard about Fenezaken, and there was just this spark of interest for my mom and my dad to take this opportunity for my sisters to learn the language, right? This is a full immersion program that really it promotes the use of Fino Chamorro throughout the whole school day. And of course, it encourages the parents to make a commitment to also learn and also to enforce what my siblings learn at home, to really ensure that the language is promoted not only for them, but for our family. So yeah, that move was definitely, really heartwarming for me, because this is a great opportunity for my siblings to have to learn the language that I still unfortunately don't speak and know, and I should. And it's great because my sisters at this young age, it's really promoting their cognitive development. And my mom, when she was just really trying to grasp, making this big move, this great move for our family, is the fact that, having the knowledge of more than one language promotes the intelligence of children in general.
Oh,
so
absolutely.
My siblings will be much better off, and I say that all three of them, including my brother, are for sure going to be smarter than me, if not already.
Well, that's quite the same, because you're a smart cookie. And all the I think in the past there was this kind of this fear, right? Like, well, do we want to do this because I don't want my kid to fall behind? Like, what if they become deficient in English? But all of the research and all of the studies have shown, and this is not a new thing, right? There are a lot of other places that have developed these models for, language immersion. And a lot of it is being done by indigenous communities. And so, before the immersion program started in Guam, there are a number of programs that were happening in Hawaii and in other Polynesian nations where they were, trying to revitalize their indigenous language and using an immersion model. And what their study showed was that kids did not fall behind in their development and use and understanding of the English language because English is all around them. And so, they're still speaking and hearing English, outside of school. They still have access to literature, so they can still kind of keep sharp on their literacy skills. And what the immersion schools do is that they teach to the same educational and curriculum standards as all, DOE schools. They just do it all in Chamorro. So they're learning the same, the same geography or the same history or the same biology or math or whatever as any other public school. They're just teaching it in Chamorro, which is super exciting. And I want to just hats off to all those movers and shakers that have worked very diligently to create these systems in our schools. I think it's an awesome thing that we have the public school component right in Fanny Zaken at PC Lujan. And it's awesome, too, that we have a charter because, charter is still a publicly funded institution. And it means that both institutions are accessible to anyone on Guam. And so most of the kids who go to Fanny Zaken or go to the Hurrao Charter School are schooling out of district. They don't live near the school, but because it's a special program, it's really more about their enrollment and their enrollment capacity. And so if you're interested in getting your kid into Chamorro immersion, You can check out the Fanny Zaken program at PC Lujan, which is in Barragata, behind the old Cool Spot. And then the Hurrah Academy Charter. I know they have a website. The Fanny Zaken program is under the Chamorro Studies department, which is under DOE, or program, sorry. And the Hurrah Charter School is it's also in it's in where is it? It's the old, what was that, San Vicente?
Yes, the old
old San Vicente campus. So when San Vicente closed, I think Hurrah and BTAX purchased that campus, and they share it now. So really cool stuff going on. I encourage folks to, take a look at what's happening around the island. It's a great time to learn more about Chamorro history and, the Chamorro issues, and to enrich yourselves. There's a lot of people who are doing a lot of cool things during the month, a lot of opportunity to access education and programs. And so, I hope that all of you enjoy your Mes Chamorro, and I hope that you all, learn something new and walk away with a greater sense of pride. I think that's definitely important. And obviously this is for all of us, right? Whether you're Chamorro or not, there's nothing that prevents you from learning the Chamorro language, from learning about our history, and from sharing, these experiences with us. So I hope everybody out there is staying safe and is enjoying the month, and I look forward to a really exciting Mes Chamorro. We're going to get back to the phone lines. We got Paul on line 2. Hafaday, Paul, you're on the air.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Still here.
You used the word referendum several times.
I sure
did. You know what
did.
the definition of...
I did, Paul, and you called me about this before, and I know you know it, so I'll go ahead and let you do it.
I called you about plebiscite. You used the word referendum.
Okay.
A referendum is a general vote by the electorate on a single political question that has been referred to them for a direct decision. So if it's a Chamorro-only vote, it is not a plebiscite, and it is not a referendum.
Okay.
We are a democracy. And in a democracy, everybody votes.
Thanks, Paul. Have a great day.
Okay, hey, look up the definition of crybaby, okay? Bye.
Look up the definition of racist. Look up the definition of hate. Have a great day, Paul. Viva Mes Chamorro.
Viva.
It's trying to rain on my parade, but guess what? It's already raining, and I likes the rain. Oh, man. There's always got to be one. Last week or the week before, Paul called in and told us that we should get over, that all of us should just get over it. We should just get over being colonized. You guys need to just get over it. That's what he said. And I was like, man, Paul, tread lightly, bro. They canceling people these days. I swear, last time somebody told black folks to get over racism and slavery, they got canceled. Somebody canceled this guy. Anyhow, I'm not going to let you ruin my mood, Paul. Thanks for the Google definition. But yeah, we there was a report going back to the what we were discussing earlier. I know we got only a little bit of time left on the show, but in regard to Bill 258-38, it was previously reported that there was a public hearing scheduled, but Byron just let me know this morning that we confirmed with Senator Tello Taitagui's office, who is the chair of the committee, that there is not a hearing set. Is that correct? Okay.
At least.
So, I mean, it's possible that a hearing was set and the date was pulled, but whatever the case, it is currently not on the legislative calendar for a public hearing. But once there is a public hearing scheduled, we will definitely let you folks know. It's very possible that I know for sure the additional hearings to hear Bill 242 have not been scheduled yet, because Senator Parkinson is actually in the Philippines. His wife actually just gave birth. I want to just send congratulations and prayers to the Parkinson family and Senator Parkinson and his wife and their lovely daughters. Senator Parkinson's wife was actually in the Philippines while the hearing was happening, the first scheduled hearing. And apparently she was there seeking medical attention. I heard that there were some complications with the pregnancy, but good news. So it looks like I just saw on Facebook, Senator Parkinson posted a photo of him and his family. His wife gave birth to a beautiful baby girl, and she looks great. His wife looks like she's doing well. I mean, all things considered, right? I guess no woman is fully great after giving birth. Is a very trying, challenging thing. So shout outs to all the moms out there that have given us birth. And I want to just send the best wishes to Senator Parkinson and his family. So it's possible that that has caused some kind of delay. I'm sure when Senator Parkinson's situation settles and he's able to return, that he'll resume his duties, and we'll be hearing more about the possibility of a scheduled public hearing for Bill 258-38. I look forward to seeing you at the hearing, Paul Zerzin. You're out there. I know you out there. I don't know why this guy listens to this show. If I make you so upset and you want to get on the air and call me names and stuff, I mean, why don't you just listen to the point? Yeah, that's right. I said it. Check those other guys, man. That's where you want all the conservative racism. That's on the other station. You got to check them. Either that or check me in the parking lot. You know what I'm saying, homie? I'm just, hey, we're all human beings, man. Let's be civil. Or not. It's a pretty easy choice. Either you're gonna be civil or you're not. So I don't think we like the other option. That's why we're here. But I want to thank all of our callers. We're coming up on time in about 9 minutes. We had a lot of great callers chiming in this morning. I want to thank Senor Joe Malik for delivering his statement in Tsamoru during Mes Tsamoru. It's really great to hear Tsamoru on the airwaves. Even for me growing up, I remember my parents, we were either listening to the old K57 or we were listening to 610. And it's like the Tsamoru station all day, which is a really nostalgic thing for me. I'm glad to know that we still have Tsamoru programming happening on the airwaves today. Matter of fact, this one of the community shows is a Tsamoru program, right, Yuli? Do you know what day the Tsamoru Studies does their program?
The Oran Fina tomorrow?
Yeah.
That's on Wednesdays.
Wednesdays. Yeah. Awesome. So
Polly only covers 2 to 4, and then the rest is Senor Laguanya and Herrera. Holly.
Yep. Mm-hmm. I love hearing Senor Laguanya and Senor Herrera on the air. They were fantastic at the public hearing.
Oh yeah, they were one of the first.
Yep. Right? Yeah. So they came. Man, YMLG came out in force. Yeah. It was awesome. It was awesome to see the members of YMLG just show up, and some of them they're all wearing their Sanahi and their YMLG shirts. Some of them just came left work. There's one guy in a bank shirt or a real estate agency or something. He was in his work polo, and he's just I'm here, guys. I'm here and ready to do the thing. Yeah. It was awesome. And then some of them came in full on, Senor Laguanya came in with his spear and his gatsai. It was awesome, and these guys are in here blowing the kulu. They made everybody stop the hearing so that they could sing Fenogi Tsamoru. And it I just gotta say, I love it when these activists just go ham in a public setting and they're just yeah, you got your procedure, we got ours. And they're just we're gonna sing Fenogi Tsamoru right now. And they just stood up and started singing, and all the senators were oh shoot, I gotta stand up, I gotta sing.
Right. And I think YMLG is promoting, there's a program now that they're developing for Chamorro language.
Yes, they are. Yeah, they are. YMLG is a really interesting, fantastic organization. First of all, YMLG, the Young Men's League of Guam, is the oldest Tsamoru nonprofit on the island. The oldest Tsamoru nonprofit group. And it's super cool because if you know a little bit about YMLG's history, YMLG really gathered, organized, and became active as an act of resistance. The U.S. Navy was prohibiting their participation in certain spaces, right? Tsamoru's participation in certain spaces. And so one of the things that YMLG did back in the day when they first started, these guys used to put on plays, public plays. I just learned this recently. Super cool. They would put on these public plays, they produce a play and put it on for the community. and it was a way to promote, Chamorro literacy and excellence and entertainment, obviously. But these plays also were like chock full of these political messages, right? Really interesting. And another fun fact, at one point, this was several years back, but YMLG at one point was, I can't remember if it was like a lawsuit filed against them or they were trying to challenge their nonprofit standing or something, but they were being accused of being racist, like, that they were being accused of not, of limiting their membership to Chamorros. And they just held their ground. They're just like, look, we are, oppressed, disenfranchised people. These types of actions and organizations are necessary, and we're going to do what we came here to do. And I'm just like, wow. It's like a bunch of these young, smart Chamorro men were just like, yeah, you don't get to tell us what to do. We got a right to exist, and we're going to perpetuate that. I love it. And it's just funny now because, like, YMLG is, people, the members of YMLG are very invested and very committed. And it's, my personal, like, running joke is, like, the YMLG is, like, now, like, the Old Men's League of Guam. And I say that with all the love and respect in my heart because, these are young men who are a part of YMLG and that have remained active and remained connected and committed to the organization even well into their older years, and their commitment has not wavered. And so it's really awesome. It's really awesome to see a bunch of like Chamorro men in a room just being there to celebrate being Chamorro. They all call each other brother and Tetlu. I love it. I love it so much. YMLG, if you're out there, I love you guys. I appreciate you. Their president, Mr. Bob Pelkey, their vice president, Mr. Carlos Laguana. You guys are fantastic. Please keep doing what you do. We are about 4 minutes out. Byron, I've been totally just going off. I got set off by our last caller.
Okay.
I got put on the mode. I need to give you a chance to chime in here and close because we're coming up on the end.
I mean, maybe to kind of spin it in a positive light, he's brought us back to focus on like the first hour of the show. But pending any updates regarding Bill 258, I think it's important that we still promote the need for more testimony for 242.
I agree
because of the fact that there is a follow-up hearing to be announced, but that doesn't mean that Senator Luan's committee isn't still accepting testimony. So I encourage everyone in our listening audience to look at our Instagram page, Guam COD. I mean, since we embarked on the campaign against 242, our page has been getting a lot of growth and engagement. So we really appreciate it from the public and their continued investment in this issue.
Right.
But if you go to our Guam COD on Instagram, you follow our link tree, we have an active toolkit. So it basically gives, the necessary arguments that we framed against the bill, the white paper we gave to our board members, and of course it has a template for your own testimony and a script if you would like to call your senators to advocate against this bill.
Right.
And it has a directory of all the senators as well. So we encourage you all to please continue to invest your time and effort and your passion against Bill 242, because although this is one of the options to help facilitate a plebiscite because of the Davis case, it isn't necessarily the right way to do it. And of course, what's great about bringing this issue to light, to bring it back to a more positive spin on it, is that it has promoted a lot of great discourse, a lot of great intelligent arguments to really support the need for a native inhabitant or Chamorro led vote, because of the fact that our people here on Guam have continued to be denied their right to self-determination, and we shouldn't erase that right by doing this.
I agree. And you can call it whatever you want. You can call it a plebiscite or not call it a plebiscite. We don't really care. I think what we're after is dignified treatment for our people. And we're not going to apologize for asserting our right to Chamorro self-determination. History is undeniable. The people of Guam, the Chamorro people, we have been denied this basic human right. And you don't want to call it a referendum, you don't want to call it a plebiscite, you can call it whatever you want, man. All we care about is that we're going to do it the right way. And I think that's the message. That's the message that I took away from the hearing on Bill 242-38, was that there wasn't a person in the room that was against moving forward. And we understand that, we're at this political legal impasse right now based on the Ninth Circuit Court ruling from the Davis case. We get it. But we're not willing to acquiesce our right. We're not willing to surrender our right or compromise our integrity and our values just for the sake of moving forward. I think it's the intelligent thing for the people of Guam to have put the kind of political pressure on their leaders in order to force them to address the state of our island today. Guam has changed significantly. The reality for Chamorro people has changed significantly. And it's our due diligence to fight back against that. And that's what this is. To me, this is the manifestation of the reality that our immigration has been co-opted by the United States, clearly under unilateral control of the United States. We didn't choose this. We didn't ask to be minorities in our own homeland. And so, I commend all of those who have been brave enough to stick their neck out and make their opinions heard. And maybe it's unpopular, but I'm here to tell you that that's not true. You are on the winning team, and it is popular. Come to the next hearing. We will be the majority, and I'll be right there with you. So it'll be a good time. I look forward to it, and we'll let you guys know as soon as we find out. Byron, I want to thank you for getting on the airwaves with us today. I want to thank all of our callers out there who have been tuned in, everybody on the live streams, on the interwebs, and of course, Yuli for holding us down in the production room, making sure that everything is correct. All of our callers out there and listeners, we look forward to hearing from you again next time. You've been tuned in to Challenge the Status Quo on Wave 105.1 FM. We'll see you next time.